Good morning everyone. Now this is our second lecture. In that we are going to start our syllabus. Yes, hashing. As we have already seen the syllabus in the previous unit. So today we are going to see the unit number 1, hashing. Yes, as we have already seen the syllabus in our previous lecture. Okay, these are the contents which we are going to study. So today we will try to complete some of the part of the hashing, hash table. In the last lecture we have seen the compiler execution stages video. Okay, in that video we have seen the how actually program executed with the help of the different component like compiler, assembler, linker, loader. Yes, so just take a overview. Compiler execution stages: source code, accept the C program as an input, then it passed to the compiler. Compiler pass that C code to the preprocessor. Preprocessor generate actual C code, then compiler generate the assembly code, then it pass to the assembler. Assembler convert assembly code to the object code, then object code resolve the solve the unresolved code and generate the executable file. Yes, and that unresolved code is solved by the or resolved by the linker, and when executable file is generated, that file is generated by the linker, then that executable file is loaded into the RAM memory with the help of the tool loader, and then CPU execute that loaded program and generate the machine code and display the output on the screen. Yes, that is a simple overview of the compiler execution stages. Now let's start our unit number 1, hashing. Yes, hashing. Yes, after diploma students, you may have already studied this concept in your diploma, but for regular student it is a new concept. So just pay attention here. Hashing is finding an address where the data is to be stored as well as located using key with the algorithm function. Yes, hashing is a, we can say hashing is a one type of a data structure. In that this is used to find the address where data is actually stored or located by using the key. Yes, so here they have mentioned key with help of the algorithm function. Algorithm function means there can be one function, and that function is called as a hash function. Means we can, if we have to store the data into the table, hash table, but so to store the data into the hash table, first of all you have to find out the hash value. So to calculate the hash value, we need of some mathematical equation, expression or formula, and that mathematical function is called as a hash function. Okay, formula is given, we have to put the value in that formula and then we will get the hash value, but we should know the we should have the key, then only we can find out the index value for that particular key. So okay, so that is the basic concept of the hashing. In that we have to simply, we can store the data into the hash table, but for that we should have the key, and hash function, means we can put the key into that hash function, then by evaluating the hash function we will get a hash value, or we can say index. So by using that index we can put the element into the hash table. Yes. Okay, second point, hashing is a method of directly computing the address of the record with the help of key by using suitable mathematical function. It's called as a hash function. Just I told you, to store the data into the table we need of hash value, but to calculate the hash value we need of hash function. So in that they have mentioned we can directly compute or calculate the particular index value with the help of the mathematical function or expression, and that mathematical function or expression is called as a hash function. Without hash function we cannot store the record into the hash table. And one more thing, we need of key. If we have key, then only we can get the index value. Now third point, a hash table. It is an array based structure. Okay, now do you know array? Array is the data structure. In that you can store the similar kind element. So hash table, it is based on the array data structure. Yes, but in array we can store the element in sequential manner. But in the hashing and in array no need to find out the key or hash value, but in hashing we need to find out the hash value. So hash table is an array based data structure used to store the key and information pair. Okay, key and information pair. In hashing we need of two fields, one is the key and second one is the information. Hash table. A hash table is the data structure that stores record in array and called as a hash table. Okay, just I told you hash, it is based on the array. Okay, so hash table is the data structure that stores the record in array, and that is called as a hash table. Hash table can be used for quick insertion and searching. Okay, in that hash table we can easily insert the element into the hash table, and we can quickly insert the element, or we can immediately search the element from the hash table, but it is not possible in the array. So that's why, that as we know, we have already studied array in our fundamental of data structure subject. So in that we have seen the disadvantage of array. In array, insertion and deletion operation is difficult. Yes, and we cannot directly delete the intermediate element. If you want to delete or insert element to the array, you have to go through the index 1, but in hashing it is not so. Here you can see we will have a key value. We should have hash key, means hash function. Then with the help of the key we can put that key into the hash function, and then we will get the hash value, or we can say address. Then we can insert that particular element or value to the specific address or hash value. Yes, that is the concept of hashing. The resulting address is used as a basis for storing and retrieving the record, and this address is called as a home address. Yes, when you will get the hash value with the help of the hash function, and you can store the record to that particular hash value, and that address is called as a home address. That address is called as a home address. Second point, for array to store the record in hash table, hash function is applied to the key of the record being stored and returning an index within the range of the hash table. Okay, if you want to store the element into the hash table, then you should have the hash table. Okay, you should know the size of the table. Suppose there is a table and maximum size of table is 10, means we can store the 10 record. But to store the data we should have the key. As per the key we can store the element into the table, but to get the specific hash value we need hash function. In that function we can put the key value, then we will get the hash value, and then we can store that particular element to that hash value. Next point, the item is then stored in the table of that index position. Once you get the hash value with the help of the hash function, then you can simply save your data to that particular index position. Yes, on that particular index position you can store your data or element. Hash table, it is one of the most important data structure that uses special function, and that is called as the hash function, which maps a given value with key to access element faster. We have already discussed what is the hash table, and in hash table there is a mathematical function to evaluate the key value, and that mathematical or that special function is called as a hash function. Now what does hash function do? It maps the given value with key to access the element faster. Yes, because of that key value we can easily access the element from the hash table. Next point, a hash table is the data structure that stores some information, and the information has basically two main components. First one is the key and second one is the value. Yes, so these two components are very important in the hash table, key and value. The hash table can be implemented with the help of the associative array. Yes, we have already studied array concept in our first semester subject fundamental of data structure. So associative array, that is one of the type of the array. You may have studied associative array in the Python. Yes, associative means there can be two values which are associated with each other, like your roll number, name. Yes, roll number 1 and name is Anand, suppose. So it is associated value. So in that, so that's why that is called as the associative array. Key and value both are interrelated or dependent. So that's why it is called as the associative array. And in hash table we store the data in pair, key and value. The efficiency of mapping depends upon the efficiency of the hash function used for mapping. Okay, we know efficient algorithm or efficient program, that is the best characteristics of any algorithm. So when we can say that mapping is efficient or good, when the your hash function is good, means here you can see they have mentioned efficiency of mapping depend upon the efficiency of the hash function used for mapping, means which hash function or what type of hash function you are using, according to that your hashing, your mapping efficiency depend. If your hash function is simple, then your efficiency will be good, and if suppose hash function is little bit difficult or complex, then your efficiency of your hashing mapping is less. Now next, advantages of hash table. Next topic is the advantages of hash table. First point, hash table have high performance when looking up data, inserting and deleting existing value. Yes, hash table having the high performance because we can easily insert the element or we can delete the element from the hash table, yes, with the help of the index. So that's why we can say it having the high performance. Second point, the time complexity for hash table is constant. Yes. Now let's see why they have mentioned time complexity for hash table is constant. Constant means same. Okay, for example, suppose there is a hash table. In that hash table, suppose there are how many record? 5 record. Yes, 5 record having the same hash function. 5 record having the suppose same hash function. Okay, if suppose hash function is the h of x mod 10, for example. So mod 10 means what is the time complexity for mod? If you perform divide operation, then we know time complexity is log n. So that log n time complexity will be constant for all 5 record. That particular time complexity will be constant for all the 5 record. So that's why advantage mention time complexity of hash table is constant regardless number of item in the table. Okay, so time complexity depends on the number of elements present in the hash table and hash function. If you are using log, if you are dividing the element, then it will be log n. If you are using only n number of elements, then time complexity will be O of n. Yes. Now third point, they perform very well even when working with the last data set. Yes, that is the drawback of the array is that when the last data set is used in, so array will not be work for the last data set, but in hashing it works for the last data set. So that's why advantage mentioned they perform very well even when working with last data set. Means it also work as a small data set as well as last data set, but in array it only operate with the small data set. If suppose large data set, then array is not efficient. Yes. Now next part, disadvantages of hash table. Next topic is the disadvantages of hash table. You cannot use null value as a key. You cannot use null value as a key. Okay, means there should be a value for key. It should not be empty or null. And we have already studied in hashing we require key. Without key, hashing will not be performed. And disadvantage that hashing we cannot use null value. At least you have to use any value, 1, 2 or whatever, but you cannot be make it as a null. That is the disadvantage of the hashing. Second, collision cannot be avoided when generating key using hash function, and collision occurs when key that is already is in use is generated. Okay, you cannot avoid the collision. If suppose, now what is the collision? Collision means if suppose there are two values which are storing on the same address, that is called as a collision. Suppose this is a table. Yes, it having the index 1, and you have two value. One is a 22 and second one is a 25, for example, and both value are storing on the same index value. Yes, so in such a case we can say collision is occurred. So we cannot avoid the collision in the hash table. So that is a big drawback of hash table. Third point, if the hashing function has many collisions, then this can lead to performance decrease. Suppose there is a hash table. In that hash table, suppose 0 to 50 entries. There are total 0 to 51, means 0 to 49 entries, means 50 entries total. And in that table, if suppose there are too many collisions means most of the elements are storing on the same memory location, then in such a case this can be lead to the performance decrease. Yes, in such a case performance of the hash table can be degraded. Why? Because if collision is occurred, then it might take a more time to resolve that problem. Yes, so that's why performance of the hash table can be degraded. Yes, so these are the disadvantages of hash table. Yes, students, we have seen introduction, what is the hashing, what is the hash table, what is the hash function, then what is the associative array. We have seen the advantages of hash table and disadvantages of hash table. Yes, now next topic, that is the operation of hash table. Yes, what is the next topic? Operation of hash table. Insertion, searching and deletion, these are the basic operation of the hash table. Insertion, we can insert the element into the hash table. This operation is used to add the element to the hash table. Search, this operation is used to search element from the hash table using key. Yes, if you want to search the element from the hash table, then you can search that particular element with the help of the key. Deleting, this operation is used to delete the element from the hash table. Okay, same, if suppose you have key, then you can also delete that specific element from the hash table. So these are the basic operation of hash table: insertion, searching and deletion. Now applications of hash table. Real world application. In the real world, hash table are used to store the data for database. Yes, you may be familiar with the databases. Yes, in computer system, database is very important where we can store our data. So if you want to store the data, then we need of hashing. So that's why database where we can store our large amount of data. So that's why hash table is important, and that hash table or this hashing concept is used for the databases. As we know, there are various type of database: MySQL, MongoDB, yes, Microsoft Access. So in such a database we can use the hash table. Associative array. Okay, associative array, we have already studied associative array. Associative array means there is a pair. Yes, associative means there is a pair. Pair means key and information. Like I have already given the example for associative array: name and roll number. So name and roll number, these are two things, two entities which are interrelated. So in associative array, key and information, that is a interrelated value. So it is stored in the associative array. So hash table is basically used for the associative array. Set operation. Okay, we know the set operation, like union, intersection. Yes. So for that set operation we need of hash table, because again there are two values, so that hash table also used for sets operation. Memory cache. Yes, memory cache. Cache. Now what does it mean? Cache is one of the fastest memory of the computer system. It is situated between the CPU and main memory. And memory cache, so hash table, which is basically used to store the data which is already visited. Suppose when we open any Word file or PPT file, then if suppose you have closed that file, then you can see that file in the recent tab. Okay, so that is cache, means hash table hold a previously open file. One more example, on the web browser there is a cookies. Yes, cookies means when you visit a specific page like pvgcoe.nashik.org, that is a college, our institute website. Suppose you have visited that website to your computer system first time, then you have to enter complete web address for that particular website. But when next time you will try to open that same web address in your browser, then no need to type whole address. When you will type www.pvgcoe, automatically that data will be fetched. Why? Due to the memory cache, because that data is already cache in our memory. So in such a case we use the hash table for memory cache, means where you want to store the data you require hash table. Where you want to store the two values which are interrelated, then interrelated means associative array, means when you want to store the two interrelated value, then we need a hash table. Yes, so these are the only 4 applications. There are so many applications available for hash table. Just keep in your mind where you want to store the record, or when you want to retrieve the data from the table or database, we need of hash table. Yes, so these are the applications of hash table. At hash table we have already studied. Yes, but one more definition: it is a data structure that stores record in array, that is called as a hash table. Hash table can be used for quick insertion and searching. Yes, to insert element into the hash table we need of for quickly insertion or for immediate searching we need of hash table. Okay, this is the example of hashing data structure. Here you can see one array is given or list is given: 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15, and this is the hash function. Sorry, this is hash function. 11, this value put here. 11 more 10, answer is 1. So here you can see 11 more 10, answer is 1. So that 11 value stored on index 1. Now 12 more 10, answer is 2. So that's why 12 stored on index 2. 13, 3, 14, 4, 15, 5. So like this, by evaluating that particular hash function, that elements are stored on the specific index. In this way hashing works, means by using hash function we calculate the hash value, and then according to that we store the element into the hash table. So that is the concept of the hashing and hash table. Yes, now next part, that is the hash function. We will continue the hash function concept in the next lecture. Okay, thank you very much. You can leave the meeting.